What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to break down how I use liquidity in my trading. We'll go over how liquidity gets created, where price is most likely to react, and how I use those sweeps alongside order blocks and price action to look for entries. In my last video, I explained that the S in STE stands for sweep, which is liquidity. So in today's video, I'm going to go more in depth on how I identify liquidity, why price targets it, and how I use those sweeps as confirmation before entering a trade. For me, trading is all about STE: sweep, tap, and execute. First, we identify the liquidity sweep, then the order block tap, and finally we wait for execution confirmation through price action. Alright, so stay tuned and I hope you guys enjoy this video. Alright guys, so today's video will be about liquidity. As I mentioned earlier, what is liquidity? Alright, and where can I find liquidity? Okay, so liquidity is always formed when we create higher highs and higher lows. Okay, so where can I find them? Right, I can find liquidity at my higher lows. Okay, and down here. Okay, so that is your area of liquidities. Okay, and when market creates swing highs and swing lows, right, there's also going to be liquidities at the internal structures, right? So I'll show you in a bit what I mean by that. Okay, so same thing for a downtrend, right? I can show you where our break is, right? So our breaker structure would be right here, right? And our second one would be here. Okay, so breaker structure, right? I can also show you where the higher high is if you guys don't already know, right? Which would be here. Higher high. Okay, and obviously the higher lows would be here, right? So then that would be our liquidity, right? So higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Okay, and that is exactly where we find our liquidity. Okay, so it's also going to be vice versa for when market is bearish. Okay, it's going to be at the lower highs. Okay, very simple, very simple. Okay, so why is liquidity so important? Okay, liquidity is important because we want the market to so basically at the start of your session, right, you want market to swipe liquidity before you even start looking for a trade. Okay, obviously you want to know your bias, and then second most thing that people have hard times with is finding liquidity. Okay, bias is pretty easy to find, right? Whether the market is bullish, aka uptrend, or bearish, aka downtrend. Okay, and then the second thing, which would be liquidity. Okay, it's very important that you find your liquidity. Okay, because once the market opens, right, or your session, whatever, starts, you want to find your liquidity and you want the market to swipe that area. Okay, because if you don't wait for it to swipe and you go and enter a trade, you're most likely going to be liquidity, right? And you don't want that to happen. Okay, so now let's move on to the charts. Okay, hope that was informative right there. Okay, let's go down. We'll start at the daily. Okay, so obviously we want to find our bias, right? We want to know whether we are in a downtrend or an uptrend. Okay, and that's I'm pretty sure I've already explained this to you guys in my last video. So we'll just dive right into it. Okay, because that's not the important part right now of this video. So I'm just gonna go fast with my bias. Okay, this is the daily. Okay, so Right here we have a swing low. Okay. So where was we have liquidity up here. Okay. Right, because that is its lower high, right, before the break. And same thing here, right? That is its lower high before the break. So that is your liquidity on the daily, right? So that is your daily liquidity, all right? And you can potentially look for a sell there, right? So that's the daily, right? So now we go on to the 4 hour, okay? So 4 hour is telling me we are bullish, right? We have multiple breaks to the upside on the 4 hour now, okay? So what we want to do is we want to mark up our breaker structures. Breaker structure, and breaker structure would be here. Okay, so now at every higher low, right, it's going to be liquidity. Okay, so the higher low, right, the lowest point, which would be this one, is our liquidity. Okay, and the next one, right, would be right here. Okay, so that is your 4 hour liquidity. Okay, so obviously if you're in a certain session, right, let's go to bar mode replay, select the bar, right? Okay, so here it looks like Thursday evening, or no, Thursday morning, right, we swiped the daily liquidity. Okay, so you want to be looking for either temporary sells up here, okay, on the 5 minute or whatever, or you can be looking for buys because the 4 hour is bullish, right? But you would need to either hit this order block here, right, and wait for market to pull back and give you price action. Okay, luckily for me that day, I didn't take a trade on Thursday morning for gold, right? There was just no play for me that day, right, in the morning. Let's see, yeah, there was no, time is it? Yeah, market just pulled back without giving me an entry here on the 5 minute, right, when we swept liquidity on the daily. So I was not able to find a trade, okay? But later on this day, we were in this 4 hour order block, right? So it did give me a setup later this day, Thursday evening, right? So go to Thursday evening. I'll show you real quick, okay? Now that we are inside this daily liquidity, right? That would probably be like our max target area where you want to take your, if you take a buy, once you hit this area, you probably most likely want to be out. Okay, so let's see. Oh, sorry about that. Let's see, where were we? Right here. Okay, so real quick, right? So the 4 hour swept liquidity, right? We swept liquidity on the 4 hour, so that's an indication that we should be looking for buys. The 1 hour is also bullish, okay? We have multiple breaks to the upside and only one break to the downside. So one break to the downside is an indication that we're still bullish. Okay, there's also the break. Same where the 4 hour one was. Okay, so we're inside this 1 hour order block right here. Okay, so there it is, right? So we're inside this 1 hour order block, okay? And obviously when market opened, the gap down, so it looks like it broke below, but technically that's not a break below. Okay, so market opens, swipes liquidity, and we wait for price action to give us that initial buy. Change direction, right, on the 5 minute back to an uptrend. Okay, so that's what happens here. Okay, market changes directions, we get our first break. Okay, and we need liquidity to be swept now, right? Markets changed, now we have two breaks, right? So definitely are bullish, Okay, so we have 2 breaks. We still don't have liquidity swept internally. Yes, it swept it on the 4-hour, okay, but now we need it to sweep internally, okay, internally now on the 5-minute for us to enter a trade, okay, and boom, there we go, right here we have a second break or a third break, right? Let's delete this big word block here. Okay, so we have a break of structure here, and obviously at the higher low, like I explained earlier, right, is your liquidity. Okay, so it's swept liquidity, right? And now we want, most importantly, we want the market to go back into an uptrend, right? So we wait for price action, and boom, here it is, right? We get price action right here, and we enter our buy. Okay, we want at least 81 pips, 82 pips. You want it right below the swing. The internal higher low. Okay, or sorry, lower high because it broke below internal. Yes, so this lower high. Okay, all right. So you want it below there, right? You do 81 pips. Your first target will be 81 pips. Okay, so that would be 1-to-1. Okay. And boom, hit 1-to-1. We almost got stopped out, but we didn't, right? There was a little bit of a support here, right, on I believe the 15-minute as well. Yeah, so luckily for us, we didn't get stopped out. Okay, and we went straight into profits. We hit 1-to-2, almost, not quite. I think market almost came back and pulled me out, but luckily we got a really good entry. Okay, got a really good entry, and we didn't get stopped out. Okay, so let's see, 1-to-3 there, and this trade just shot up, right, and get stopped out there, and then just hit 1-to-3, right? That was a beautiful trade, beautiful setup, and this was during Asia session. Okay, so obviously I trade Asia session, but this was a very A+ setup for me. Okay, I had taken a loss earlier in the day, right? I think I entered somewhere over here. No, I lied. No, I didn't take a loss that day. Scratch that. So that was Thursday's trade. But that was a really good A+ trade, guys. I mean, I don't know what else you guys want, right? You guys got to understand where you guys are in the market, okay? And the most important thing is understanding where liquidity is. Okay, I know the daily in the morning was telling us sells, right? Because we swept liquidity up here on the daily, but the 4-hour turned bullish later that day. So we want to be looking for short-term buys, right? Exactly what happened. I think the market is going to change back to a bullish uptrend soon, right? We have this. I think if it breaks above here, the next daily candle, then we will start looking for buys again, right? But the daily, we have a daily order block as well that we could possibly take a sell off of, right? Which would be this one. So if you guys see me later in the week take a sell, it would be based off this daily order block. Okay, I'm giving you guys free sauce here. So if you guys see market come into this daily order block, you could come down to the 5-minute. Okay, and basically wait for price to give you, all the breaks you need, right? Double top, whatever, internal liquidity, order block tap in, and then your price action, right? Something like that. Okay, and take the sell. Okay, based off this daily order block. All right. And if it doesn't give you, don't force the trade, right? You don't ever want to force a trade. Sometimes it doesn't even give you that. Okay, which is why we could possibly just end up taking a buy here up into this daily order block, and then that's it, right? So that was basically there was a lot of sells earlier in the week. Okay, that was the end of the week for Thursday. I was still looking for sells, but it ended up turning bullish, so we ended up looking for buys again. So earlier in the week we took some sells. Okay, so let's go to Wednesday 6 a.m. earlier in the week, we know that the markets are still bearish, right? We have the daily is bearish, right? This is a live candle, so the daily is still bearish, right? We don't even have a break yet. So the 4-hour is also bearish because we have 2 breaks to the downside. Okay. One break here. Our second break. Oh, quick transfer, so it'd be down here. All right, wick transfer there. So then obviously market came up, and so swap liquidity. What do we do here, right? Some of you guys will probably be like, oh, markets are bullish again, I want to look for buys, right? No, you're wrong. This is just a big pullback, right? And that is just liquidity. Okay, that's market basically taking out all these lower highs, right, and sweeping liquidity. Okay, so that is just all liquidity. Okay, guys, that's all liquidity to me. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, obviously the 1 hour is bullish. Okay, so if you want to take a buy, it would have to be off of a 1 hour order block. Okay, and that's all the way the heck down here, guys. Right, all the way the heck down here. Okay, so what can we do? Well, let's come down here and look for a freaking sell, right? How hard is that? Okay, we have to come down here and look for a potential sell. Okay, so we obviously have 2 breaks, okay, to the downside on the 5-minute. Okay, same thing I told you about the daily, right? Same thing, you want the market, the 5-minute, to change direction, and that's when you could start looking for your liquidity and everything, right? So market comes down at about 5:30, and we should start looking for liquidity. Okay, so we have a internal break here, and we have liquidity up here. So obviously market after 5:30, because we start trading at 5:30, right? So after 5:30, we want market to sweep liquidity, and boom, there was our liquidity, right? I don't think there was a trade here. There was news that day on Wednesday, so there was just no trade for me there, right? So we waited, okay, for a market to come back into this order block up here, okay, and market on the 5-minute changed direction, so now we have 2 breaks, right? 2 breaks to the upside. So we had to wait for market to change direction. Okay, so boom, that's 1 break. Okay, 1 breaker structure, and let's see, do we get liquidity? Okay, boom, there it is. All right, so here we have a order block here. Okay, let's see, maybe on the 15-minute we have a better order block. No, we do not. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so that's our tap in, right? And then obviously 1 break to the upside is liquidity. Okay, so remember, we have 2 breaks to the downside, right? 2 breaks to the downside. So 1 break to the upside is what? Liquidity. Perfect. So we have everything we need. We have order block tap in, liquidity. Now we can go ahead and enter our short positions, right? So do something like 60 pips, wait for market to break down below here. Okay, let's see, and let's see if we get a pullback. Yeah, we got that pullback. We enter there, and market just dumps. Okay, oh no, we actually broke even. Psych. Okay, so obviously we hit 101. Our stop was what, 60 pips. Okay, we hit 60 pips right here, and the market actually gave us a break even. Thought that was a dub that day. So we hit break even, so then we move our stops, you know, and then we end up getting stopped at a break even. So that was a break even trade, but that was your trade for Wednesday. Okay, and obviously after 10:30, it's already 10:30 around this time. Market just pulls back. That's it. We're done for the day. We took a break even, and we were done. So Wednesday's trade was a break even, okay, and that's completely okay, right? So we move on to later that evening, okay. So we know that the 1 hour is currently bullish, okay. Remember I told you guys the 1 hour was bullish, right? So we had broke even earlier Wednesday morning, right? We took a break even trade and we were done for the day, only one trade. But Wednesday evening at around 8 p.m., right, market comes back into this 1 hour order block, right? So during Asia session, I was able to find a trade, okay? So we come back down here onto the 5 minute, okay? And we look for a potential setup, okay? So this is Wednesday, okay, guys? Wednesday of this week. So remember what I told you guys is we want for market to sweep liquidity, okay? So the 5 minute here is currently bearish, okay? So market is bearish, you want the market to change direction, right? So what do we get here? We get a breaker structure, right? So we have a liquidity form right here based off the internal swing high, okay? So that will be liquidity, right? And let's see, boom, market breaks below it, right? So one break to the downside is liquidity, okay? So where is our order block? Well, it's this big one right here. Okay, let's see if we break it. Hopefully we don't break below it. And we break above, okay? So we want the market to pull back, right, up into this area here. And we can take our long position, okay? We'll have about a 65, 70 pip stop loss, okay? And let's see if we get it. I believe we do. Let's see. Boom, there it was. Perfect entry, right? Pulled back into that area, right? We enter the buy and we hit 101 almost immediately. Okay, 101, and your 102 would be up here. All right, and whether you guys let that ride, that's up to you, but I believe it does hit like 103 or something. Okay, so boom, there it is. And that was your trade for Wednesdays, okay? But most importantly, the whole point of this video is to show you guys what liquidity is, right? And that was here, right? One break to the downside, okay, was your liquidity, okay, guys? And that was the most important thing about this video, is showing you where liquidity is and how to find it on the external chart, right, which would be the 4 hour or daily, okay, and then your internal, which would be your 15, 5 minute, etc. Okay, so that's how you find liquidity, okay, guys? And I hope this video was helpful, okay? If you guys can please like, subscribe, comment, share, all that, that'd be great, okay, guys? I appreciate you guys watching this video, and I will see you guys next week.